If your door handle does this, then you're about 20 minutes away from fixing it. Today we're replacing this worn kitchen door handle. If the latch is worn too, we'll swap that as well. So the WorkSmart rule is diagnose before you buy. There are usually 3 possible causes: loose fixing screws, worn out spring in the handle, or a damaged or worn out latch mechanism. First check is, does the handle spring back like this? If it does, it's most likely that the screws are loose. Simply fix it by tightening the screws. The second check is, does the handle flop down like this? If it does, then most likely it's the spring in the handle. Third check, does this latch retract smoothly? If it does it feel gritty or does it stick? This one feels gritty and it's sticking, so most likely that will need replacing. So this handle has been in use for at least 13 years, which is how long we've lived in this house. There's likely to be lots of debris when the handle is removed, so put something on the floor to collect it, such as this paper towel. The other thing you can do is to stop the door wobbling around, just gently jam a screwdriver underneath the door like that, and it just stops it from wobbling around too much. I do tend to wear gloves when I'm doing DIY projects. You don't need to, it's just personal choice. So remove the first side of the handle. So you can see all the dirt here, and that's the spindle. So you can remove the other side. 2 screws here as well. So you can see all the dirt inside here, look. Show you the handles I removed. So this is the right hand handle. You can see this one's actually springing up fine. You see the springs here, look. It's hooked over this little pin, and that, as you push down, that spring tightens and then brings the handle back up, and it stops against these stop plates when it's down, stops here, when it's up, stops there. It is actually going a little bit higher than it should, so you can see that the inside here is worn. So it should be stopping there, but it's actually going higher. So that handle's worn out anyway. And then this is the handle which was causing the problems. So this is the left-hand handle. You can see here, look, if you look over here, the spring is completely gone. And you can see this is the end of the spring. And what's happened is the hook has snapped off. So when you push it down, there's no spring tension at all. And this handle was pulling down the other handle. So even though the other spring in the other handle was fine, because this one's broken, that single spring's trying to lift up 2 handles. Strangely enough, this handle isn't so worn in the center. So this is the handle which is floppy, look, that doesn't spring back. So what we're doing, use these circlip pliers. We'll get on here, remove the circlip. Be careful that we remember where these parts are. And there we can see here, look, it's the broken spring. This is what it should look like. So we've got 2 choices here. We can buy a repair kit which would include the spring and the circlip. So you can buy a kit, and that's a reverse of what we've just done. Put your spring in, like so. put your limit plate in. And then if you've got room, you can put your spacer in. I don't think I need it for this particular one, so I'm going to just put the circlip straight on top. Make sure that's seated properly. And there we go. Now, that's great if your handle's not completely worn out. However, what I noticed when I took this apart just now is that is really worn out. Look, see how much movement there is, and you can see that hole is just completely worn. All that means is if I put this door handle back on, it's just going to move around like this all the time. See how much play there is there. So it would be nice to get a repair kit, which will look something like that. However, in this instance, it makes sense just to replace the complete handle. So this is the new handle. It's a heritage brass door handles and accessory. Comes with a new spindle and also fixing screws. Let's take this out. Move the latch. Taking care not to drop the screws on the floor. So here's the screw. So this is the latch. We put the spindle in there. There's a lot of movement on the latch mechanism where the spindle fits through, and actually you can turn that nearly 1/8 of a turn before the latch starts to move. See the reason for the gloves. Look, there's quite a lot of debris coming out of those old handles. Let's give this a clean, get rid of all that debris. Let's give it a quick wipe as well. Do. If your mortise latch is damaged or broken, you'll need to measure it to make sure that you can buy the correct replacement. So this is your spindle opening here, where your spindle goes. And this is the faceplate, which obviously goes flush against the door. So what you need to measure is the distance from that faceplate to the center of that hole. So this one looks like it's 45. To measure it properly, measure from the faceplate here to the center point of where the spindle fits through the square hole. On this one, that distance from faceplate to spindle hole is 45 millimeters. That's called the backset size. And the other dimension is again from the faceplate to the rearmost end of the mortise latch. On this one, that distance is 64 millimeters. And that dimension is called the case size. So you can see here, this is the worn out one. And this is the one that's new. You can see that the latch hole is level, whereas the worn out one, its natural position is out of the horizontal. So the handle's going to want to tend to flop downwards. Okay then, now it's time to fit the new latch. So here's the new latch. Just put it on there, look, it fits nicely. The new mortise latch comes with new screws, so we might as well use those. Next, we install the spindle and the second handle. What I'm doing here by pushing this handle down and letting it spring back on its own is to let the handle plate find its own position on the door before I put the second screw in. Install the second screw, check the handle works, check both sides, make sure it works on both sides, and then the last thing we do is make sure the door closes and opens correctly as expected. This is what the finished repair looks like. Two nice new handles and a nice mortise latch. Unfortunately, as soon as I'd finished, both the handles had started to stick in the downwards position. And what I also noticed is that the mortise latch itself was sticking. What I think has happened is the person who drilled the original hole didn't drill the hole either big enough or at the correct angle. It's actually in a slight upwards angle like I'm showing here. What this means is when you fit both the handles against the door and tighten the screws, as the handles pull towards the center of the latch, what they're doing is forcing that spindle slightly upwards. What then happens, as the spindle tries to move in an upwards direction, the latch mechanism binds up inside and the springs in both the latch and the handles aren't strong enough to overcome that frictional force. Unfortunately, there's no choice. We just have to take it all apart again. Now that both handles have been removed, you can see the slight angle on the spindle. Take the look out, open up this hole a little bit, give it a bit more clearance, and then put it all back together and it should be fine. The largest drill I have is a 13mm, so I have to use it and move it around in the hole to make a slightly oversized hole. Don't over tighten, otherwise you'll bend the striker plate. Go. So that's nice and level now, look. Plenty of clearance there, plenty of clearance there. Now that we've correctly lined the spindle up so that it's perfectly horizontal, we can drill new holes and use the fixings that came with the new handles. Use the spirit level to mark a vertical center line. Using the vertical line as a guide, position the handle and drill pilot holes top and bottom. Holding the drill as level and as straight as you can keep it, make some screw clearance holes through to the other side of the door. Fit the handle and then push this new screw into the clearance hole. If the clearance holes aren't big enough, drill them out again slightly larger. So you find out if our holes is level or not. These new screws come in two parts and they screw into each other from each side of the door. Fully tighten the screws using two screwdrivers. Once fully tightened, make sure the handles move freely. So final check, make sure the door closes properly and opens properly from both sides. There we go. That's it. Solid handle, smooth latch. If you're doing this at home, take a photo before you take everything out. It might save you some time when you put it back together. If you do like this video, please click that little thumbs up icon and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.